Thank you for the invitation to be here today. I've been given a set of directions on how I should proceed, first with a brief description of our Community Development Corporation, and then talking about some of our past projects and what we're working on most currently. And I'll try to be brief. I'm on the people side, so I heard you on that, but I guess I'm doing buildings too. But it's very fascinating, the information that you presented, and I was enlightened by that. The Omega Community Development Corporation was started in 1997, so we are 20 years old. Wow. As of this November, now, this very month. We are a sister organization to the Omega Baptist Church, and 20 years ago, it was the vision of leadership that the church would not just be a group of people that came together to worship, but also a group of people that were about transformation in the community by engaging in services that address the needs of the community. We just happened to feel that the gospel, as we interpreted it, was not just for us to be spiritually fed, but also to take care of the needs of people's hunger, education, all of those areas that we saw very much impacting the lives of our parishioners, as well as the people in our immediate community. So we began by applying for a 501c3 status. We were awarded that in 1997, and from there we began to work with the vision and direction for the Omega CDC. Our focus at the outset, I think, and I think we continue to evolve on this subject, but primarily it's a focus on Northwest Dayton, which is this area, and 3 areas of services are focused: economic development, family development, and youth development. And I would say over the past 20 years, we have spent a good deal of time focusing on youth development and family development through programming that we've done primarily with children in after-school programs, summer learning. We've had Freedom School, for example, for the past, this will be our 10th year operating a Freedom School, which is a summer literacy program to try to prevent summer slide among our children. We did Camp Koopa prior to that, which was a summer program. We have been involved in rites of passage programming for 10 years. We did in partnership with Dayton Public Schools to offer a mentorship program for students, particularly boys, and then we added a division for girls called the Daughters of Zion. We also got involved in SERVE, which is the community initiative reducing gun violence. We've been doing that now for 9 years in partnership with the Human Relations Council. I hope you hear a kind of constant thread as I've described a couple of these programs, in that our focus is to partner with organizations to fill a gap. It is not to set off on our own to recreate or do something that is already being done, but to partner with organizations to work with those organizations to bring about transformation in our community. Now, interestingly, for the first, I would say the first 10, 15 years or so, that's been quite a bit of time, we have really done programming that we have been invited to be engaged in. People have seen a need and they've gone, Omega has a CDC, Omega is engaged with people in the area, we should call on them. And that has really taken us to some different regions of the city. In other words, though our focus in our mission says Northwest Dayton, we have really been involved in other places. For example, our Freedom School, we did, started off at the church, doing it in the church building, but about 5 years ago, the mayor said, you know, we really need to have a literary kind of focus in our summer learning programs with Parks and Recreation. And I wonder if you would consider bringing your Freedom School to the Dayton Boys Prep. We said, sure. So we did Dayton Boys Prep for 4 years, and it was a wonderful, wonderful marriage. The principal was very ecstatic about us being there. The custodians were excited. We had a good program going there. But as we began, particularly in these last couple of years, to say, really, where is our focus? Is it Northwest Dayton? If it is, what other organizations or what other programs are going on in Northwest Dayton where we can impact change and be helpful? And we thought about the Freedom School and said, you know, we've got Fairview School here, and it is a failing school, and there are lots of difficulties in the school. Why don't we bring Freedom School to Fairview? So last summer was our first year doing a Freedom School at Fairview, and it was successful. It was difficult because it was a whole new group, different principal, different custodians. Some would say, why are you concerned about a custodian? But if you're doing a program after school, whether it be in the afternoon or during the summer, you are going to bump heads with a custodian who's trying to clean their building. So it's been really a wonderful and difficult kind of new adventure for us to move to the Fairview School, but we did that. And then we knew that we were also entertaining an application for an after-school program, a 21st Century Grant, and we were awarded that in August. So we began an after-school program, and guess where it is? At Fairview. Right. So we're offering 5 days a week, after-school learning enrichment in math, actually academics, because you have to have a highly qualified teachers to implement that program, that federally funded program. And so we are doing a 5 day a week, just a 5-year commitment to Fairview. Just under $1 million is the commitment of dollars going into that program. Academic work for 2 hours every day in math and reading, and then an enrichment program where we're teaching kids to play chess. DCDC is offering dance classes. There's music. Darren Bell is bringing a whole music program to that after school initiative. We have martial arts going on. Just enrichment that those children ordinarily are not receiving, because so many of those additional enrichment courses have been taken out of the Dayton Public Schools. So we feel that there's impact there, and in partnership with the Ohio Department of Education, we're able to implement that program there. So currently the Omega CDC has, I think, 6 programs that we're doing. The SERVE program, which we continue to do in mentoring ex-offenders. We are now seeing a very successful year of reducing gun violence. I just pulled some data which shows that last year in 2016, we had 93 gun incidents. This year, we've had 23 today. You probably didn't know that. Last year we had 31 homicides. This year, to date, about 14. We are currently with a client base of over 100 ex-offenders that our guys are doing one-on-one mentoring. They have a requirement to touch those individuals at least 4 times a month, either through phone calls or actual visits, to try to keep them on the engaged with our case manager, who is working on anything from getting a GED to correcting basic ID kinds of stuff. If you don't have a driver's license, or your driver's license was taken away from you, how do we help you get back in the system? So that's the work that we do under the SERVE program. We're doing a workforce program. Yes.
No, I was going to ask, this is maybe related. I was going to ask, with that group, how is the workforce piece connected to that group?
Absolutely. So we work with the ex-offenders office, actually, and they are we're kind of hand in hand passing people on with the hope that we can get them engaged in some employment or headed in that direction. I really want for there to be more interaction between those agencies, because now the Omega CDC is also doing a workforce development program that we've been doing for 2 years in partnership with Montgomery County Jobs and Family Services. and we're primarily providing soft skills training for people who, you know, it's too soon to say, here's a job. We really need to work on workplace communications, how to dress, how to do all those kinds of, how to set goals. And some people would be amazed by that, but when you've been on a survival mode all of your life, or for generations, multiple generations, it's a very difficult thing for someone to say, how about a plan? What's your goal? I don't have a goal, just trying to make it from day to day. And, you know, and the amazing thing is, you know, sitting in a training session and asking that question and hearing folks say, I don't even know what you're talking about. When you talk about long-term, short-term goals, that is just not a part of their vocabulary. They haven't got that concept. When you attach it to children, because one of our partners is the Miami Valley Child Development Center, and we provide a cohort of workforce instruction at one of the Head Start centers. So this particular cohort this quarter is at Rosa Parks. When you're sitting there with one of those parents, usually the mother, and you try to connect the goal, short-term, long-term goals, with their children. What do you want for your children? Aha, that's where you begin to hit a nerve, and they begin to try to articulate, I want a house, I want a car, a running car, how about that? One that's gonna get me from place to place. Then you begin to have something to work with. So we do that soft skill training through the workforce program that we're doing. And my hope is that we will expand that, to answer your question, to do some of reciprocal kinds of services for some of those individuals who are in our SERVE program. We haven't seen as much of that wraparound happening yet, but I think there's opportunity there. We've kind of done an expansion of our workforce by hiring a case manager. We're doing that in collaboration with Miami Valley Urban League, and I'm looking back there at our friend who we work with very closely on that. And that, I want to put a pin in there and come back to that because it's an important piece to our next project of development. And then we're offering, as I said, the mentoring program, Restorative Passage. I don't think I said that. It's a Governor Kasich grant that was made available 3 years ago for mentoring, to really encourage mentoring in the community. And Omega CDC was able to enter into a application process for that. We were awarded one of those Community Connectors grants, and so we're doing that mentoring program that we call Restorative Passage, with a focus on STEM. And we're aligned with the Wright State STEM Collaborative, offering opportunities for kids to be exposed to engineering, robotics, all of those kinds of career paths early on, with the hope that they'll see something and go, hey, I think I can do that. I'd like to be that person. The wonderful thing about our Restorative Passage program is that we get a mentor per young man, and we serve 50 young boys at Dayton Boys Prep and have 50 mentors. Now, in this new year, I think we have 60 boys and we've got 35 mentors. So I'm on the hunt. In fact, there's going to be an announcement at church on Sunday.
Did you guys
say we're out for fraternities, and I think we're talking to you guys in Sinclair. Shack is or something. I don't know. So we're just trying. We believe in that one-on-one mentorship, and then this year we're going to kind of heighten our training with the mentors so that they also are making sure they're intentional about the discussion about future workforce. Help these kids, help these young men begin to think about what's a career in this area. Are you thinking about this after we went on this field trip? Because that's part of what the STEM piece does with Wright State, is they add a field trip to our everyday classroom instruction. And so once a month, we take the mentors, take the young boys to this company to see what's happening there. And then they have a questionnaire afterwards that says, well, did you see a career? I mean, do you like what's happening here? Do you think you'd like to do that? Do you think you'd like to build robots or whatever it is? So it's pretty cool. This is the last year for that funding. And I hope that there'll be another opportunity. We're on the scout out for that, but we've had a very strong program there. Restorative Passage, and then now the after-school program, which is called the 21st Century Grant. Yay! We're doing after-school program. The thing that I'm most excited about that as well is that Omega Church and other volunteers of the community are coming there to read with kids one-on-one. And it's fascinating to see. I've been very, very pleased with what's happening with that program. And then our summer program, we will continue with Freedom School. And I'm completing that application before I even came over here, because I hope we can do it in 2 sites this year. One at Fairview, and then I want to do one at Dayton Boys Prep to segue those kids in Restorative Passage, doing STEM focus, and make the afternoon their enrichment time big STEM related. I'd like to do that there for those boys as a continuation. So that's programming past and a little bit into the present I'm sharing for today. And then the last thing that I think is what encompasses most of my time is the development of the 30 acres that the church purchased in 2005. It's land that was formerly the land of United Theological Seminary. 30 acres in the heart of Northwest Dayton. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
With trees and green space. It was originally developed by the Olmsted brothers, who did the, the park in New York, Central Park. Yeah, they did the development of Central Park. And they've done a couple of other locations, even in the Dayton area. Apparently they were the brothers, somebody was friends with the Wright brothers, and it brought them to this area because they had an EUB or kind of background, which is the foundation of the United Methodist Church. They actually agreed to develop this land that the seminary was on. And so the land is rich. It's in the heart of the city, and Omega purchased it in 2005 and began working on the development of that land. Really in 2012 is when we had to do some rezoning and actually had to come up with a master plan, vetting that plan with neighbors, neighborhood associations, and community leaders, and government leaders, etc. Everybody was involved in that process of brainstorming in 2012. But in March of 2012, we actually were approved by the city on this master plan. I don't know if the regional department was a part of it, but I believe something happened, I don't know. But on this land, we said we would put a community center, that we would eventually have a worship center, so the church would perhaps expand out and do something there. We talked about outdoor recreational space, and the plan was to put an amphitheater there so that there could be music and concerts and a real kind of anchoring of that community, which already had a rich legacy but had experienced quite a bit of disparity, especially since 2008. Lots of disparities. If you go through the neighborhood, you're going to see houses abandoned, some of that rich home investments that are there, beautiful homes with just wonderful architecture, all different. Many people still live there, but there are quite a few of those homes that have just gone down, and some are abandoned. Additionally, we have the disparities of economics. We know that. I have a couple of data points, but 30% of the residents are high school graduates. We know that 55.9% of the children live below the poverty level. This area has been hit, not only economically, but also in health. We have a lot of health disparities, and quite a few of CareSource members live in that area. Not perhaps in the immediate perimeter of our 30 acres, but if you just span out, and no, it doesn't take long. If you start going through all the streets that are named after the Ivy League universities, Oxford, Cambridge, all of those. And then you cross over Salem, it's still a part of that 45406, zip code area. You're gonna see it, it's there. And those are the people that have been hit badly. And so the question became, as we were developing and thinking about the development of those 30 acres, what can we do? What can we bring here that will lift up the community, provide an economic an investment that actually draws more people to the community? We have resources that could contribute to the tax base, because we know that matters. That matters whether we put in another store or whatever. If you think only poor people live there, that's not gonna happen. We talk about disparities, and I'm not the scientist on this. I'm just the person observing for the past 30 years. And particularly the last 15 years, watching what's happening, watching one business after another leave Salem Avenue. Something's gotta happen, you know? So as we talked about the phased project, senior housing was another piece that's part of that master plan, affordable senior housing. And it became the work of the CDC to actually develop. The church owns the land, but the CDC is the developer. And so we've been working very hard on the first. It's a multi-phase project. We didn't intend to put everything up at one time, but the first project is the community center, which now has the name Hope Center for Families. Hope. And it's a 2-story building that will have a high-quality early learning program on the first floor. It will be actually managed, directed through Mini University. That's our partnership. On the second floor, Miami Valley Urban plans to bring the whole operation there for training and economic development. That's the second arm. Early learning, economic development. Sinclair Community College will have a presence there, and they'll do a service learning hub, plus provide training. They just revised their footprint, their 1,500 square feet, to have 4 hospital beds so that they can do training for nursing and get people ready to segue down to their campus for the allied health program. The Children's Medical Center is putting a whole pediatric clinic there, and their Center for Family Development, which does a lot of mental health, a lot of support of grandparents raising their grandchildren, that's going to be there as well. So the building now is fully leased out with partners everywhere. We just got to put a building there, which is incredible, because in many instances, folks are working on the building, the construction, and then trying to figure out how they're going to fill it and sustain the building. Yeah. How do you make sure you can keep the lights on and all of those kinds of things? So we've been very engaged in this project for at least 2 years plus. And we're now I think, turning the corner in our fundraising efforts. Our PDAC was submitted yesterday. And hopefully we will receive some state funding as well. We've raised about 1.7 out of a 3 to 3.5 fundraising goal. The rest is
that's million.
Our funding, I'm sorry?
Million?
Yes, 3.5 million is our fundraising goal. We've raised about 1.7 million in commitments and dollars. And the total cost of the building is going to be about $9 million, and we're hoping to capture. We're approved for new market tax credit. The project very much aligns for that. Okay. I think it's about 2.5 million, and then a long-term loan, traditional loan, which is based on the leaseholds, is what we have now as a commitment. And really the goal, the home stretch, is to get to that fundraising goal, that 3.5. And my hope is that we will turn the corner very quickly soon. It's been a long time. It feels like a long time. If you ask people on building projects, He said 7 years to plan something. We've been at this for a while. You know, we purchased the land in 2005. These don't happen overnight. And the fundraising, we have 2 new fundraising leads. Bev Shillito, who is one of the partners in a major law firm in the city, and then and has a lot of experience in fundraising. And Deb Feldman, the president of Children's Medical. And so we're hoping that we'll break ground in the spring or early summer with a 12-month building plan. That's the biggest project that's before us right now. The senior housing, one of the developers in the area is submitting an application on our behalf for senior housing because they really want to do that. And that might be the second thing that happens. It wasn't in our order of master plan, but as people are coming to the table and seeing the opportunity to do something really significant for Northwest Dayton, it becomes attractive, and it's offering conversations that I think will do it well for the community.
Well, thank you so much for that information. I'm excited. I can tell you're excited. I don't know about the young people in the room, but when you say you spent 5 years and 7 years and 10 years planning, and then something finally is coming, something finally happening, coming to fruition, and it's not easy. We say CDC and we use all these little acronyms, but that means something. Those things don't just happen. Community Development Corporation. I was pulled into a Community Development Corporation 2012, you know, and it's been up and down and all around. Looks like we're not gonna make it. We're gonna go the other way. Yeah. But we came together for something to better the community. So it wasn't any kind of personal investment or trying to get money out of it. And I think that's what we need for you as leaders to understand. You know, you're not going to walk away with something in your pocket, but it's all about the community and meeting those disparities and helping our young people and helping folk in the community who have been hit economically and giving them a leg up or pulling them up. So I just really commend you for everything that Omega is doing, has done, and will do.
Thank you.
I think every time I see you, it's just amazing some things that she did with. And I guess I thought myself to an extent, because I've been involved in the community for a long time. I wasn't fully aware of everything that's going on. And boy, when she came to one of our sessions and presented, I said, my God. But this is something else that's important. We talked about boards and all this. Don't just sit there and say, I'm here. Speak out intelligently. You don't know what the issues are. And be willing to support and use influence. That's what boardmanship is all about. So I went to work on this one, okay? I'm still going to see that committee. I just asked the question,